Hello everyone and welcome to the Inspire series with me, Gloria Dozian. I started the Inspire series because I wanted to empower women. I wanted us to learn how to live, love, pray, and be inspired. So join me on this wonderful journey of self-discovery where anything and everything is achievable. The Inspire series features lively guests, all of whom are living the life they only dreamed about. And you can too. Hello again and welcome to the Inspire series with me, Gloria Dozian. A huge welcome if you're a first-time viewer and even bigger welcome if you're a returning viewer. Today on the Inspire series, we're going to be talking about purpose. What is your life's purpose? What are you here on earth to do? And how do you find that purpose? Helping me today to discuss this topic is Lydia Shobogo. Okay, so Lydia, you are the CEO for Gabby Child Entertainment.
Baggy Child, yes. Baggy Child Entertainment.
And which is also, that produces the Tarawa show, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah. I was telling you just before we started the interview that finding information about Lydia is very difficult to do. And I think maybe you've purposefully constructed it that way. So I'm going to ask you, just tell me a bit about yourself to start and about Tarawa as well.
Tarawa is a monthly event. We started 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago. And when we started, it was bi-weekly. And now it's monthly, just to help us, because we have a lot of things that we're doing. So just to help us keep pace somewhat. Yeah. So it's monthly and it's a performing arts event. So we have music, we have spoken word artists, we have monologues, we have instrumentalists, anything creative arts. They just come and it's like a stage for expression. Yeah. So from Tarawa, the gathering, the Tarawa, the magazine came out. So we have an art and culture publication, which is now an online blog. And then we also have the Tarawa Festival of Performing Arts. That is yearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like what you've said, but then it's a bit of a humble introduction, isn't it? Because Tarawa is kind of like the launching pad for many, has been the launching pad for many artists that we know today. So people like M.I., Bez, a lot of people that we know started from Tarawa. So, how were you able to conceptualize, this thing that has become a movement?
Well, first, let me say that I don't take credit for anybody's success, and I would never do that. I just say that we are part of their process, and we've been a part of a lot of artists in Nigeria. Almost every artist in Nigeria has gone on the Tarawa stage, and it came about really because I think I needed the stage more than anybody. I think I needed the gathering more than anybody else. So I'll tell them, like I tell people, you think I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for myself. If you like, don't come. So we were sitting at home actually one evening with Sage, the poet, and I think Ayo, a writer, like with a few friends, and we were having sort of like a mini Tarawa at home. Like that's how I love to spend my days, just doing crazy creative things. And we were like, why don't we share it like with a bigger audience, and that afternoon, Sage had an interview in Bogobiri. So he asked us to go with him and we went there. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I fell in love with the place. And we met Chike and he said, yes, of course, you could come and use it. And I was waiting for him to mention how much it will cost, and he didn't say. He said, so when do you want to start? So I was like, okay, what about in like 2 weeks? And he was like, fine, I've been waiting for something like this, come and do. So I kept on looking at him. I said, okay, so see you in 2 weeks. And he walked away. So I'm like, okay, so let's do this. And then we now went, we sent out just like a few messages to people who we were close to. And we had our first hour on the 21st of August in 2007. And we were 7 of us. On that day, incidentally, I went with Sage to Guinness. And Ohimai, my Atafo, who still worked in Guinness then, I met him that day for the first time, and I told him what we're doing, and he came that day, and he was like one of the 7 people, and from that day, like he was like almost every Tarawa, So it's been great.
Why are you interested in the creative arts?
My father was a musician. My mom and dad actually have a tape.
Okay.
Yes.
What, like an album?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, my father playing the guitar, my mom singing along with him, and they harmonizing each other.
Was it like a long
It was
tape?
very Christian. But we all know what that was about. Yeah, so they had, so my father actually taught my brother Bez how to play the guitar.
Okay.
He taught him his first strings, and I grew up in my house, there was music 24 hours, except we were asleep. As soon as you wake up in the morning, music would be playing on the radio. So I knew every song. I know songs from the 60s,
Wow.
and I can sing along like to some people like, this is before your time. What are you doing? You know what I do singing these songs? So I grew up in a very creative household. And I don't know, but it was like I always knew, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer when I was growing up because I loved Matlock. And I loved the courtroom until I studied law. I spent 7 years in school because of strikes. And then when I went for my court and chamber attachment and actually walked into the Nigerian courtroom, I knew that I couldn't do this.
It wasn't
no, this is not my life. Like, I cannot do this. I need more excitement in my life. I could not, so that kind of disillusioned me somewhat. And I'd always known that whatever, like, part of what I do, I was always interested in the creative side. Because, like, even when I was in Jos, I would organize events. I grew up in Jos. I went to primary school, secondary school, university. Everything was in Jos. So the first time Style Plus went to Jos, we took them there.
Oh, wow.
Like, yes, we organized that event with a couple of friends. So I've always known that the creative arts is like, it's something that yes.
So it was an easy transition for you to make then from
no, it wasn't lawyer. There was no hassle at all.
And I guess because your parents were also into the creative industry in some way, there wasn't any kind of backlash. Were they worried?
Well, my father died 17 years, I think 17 years, 16 or 17 years ago, in 97 years. So he wasn't, I think if he was alive, I don't know what his reaction would have been if he was alive, really. I wonder about it. But my mother was a little worried. She tried to get me to even be a magistrate. And I was like, never gonna happen. And my brother, she even tried to get my brother to go back to school to study master's. I said, I have finished school. This is what he said. For your information, I have finished school.
Just to let you know.
Yes, just to let you know. And I feel like at that point in my life, I was already owning my life. I'd owned my life for a couple of years. Since my father died, we became kind of very independent, and it was a difficult process for us. So, like, my sister and I used to bake to put our way through school. Like, we had, sometimes we'd have no transfer money to school, and would bake and sell cakes and sell cupcakes and sell cookies, and then would have transfer money to go to school. And that process, it was a very painful process, and it kind of made me grow up overnight. So I owned myself and owned my decisions, and it wasn't an easy thing for my mother to come and say, you must do this. It wasn't going to. Yes, it wasn't going to happen. So, yeah.
Okay, so but then you started Tarawa not because of a financial. It wasn't. It was more an extension of yourself. Am I correct?
Yes. When I finished school, when I finished serving and everything in 2004 or 5, I can't remember. When I finished serving, I tried to practice law. And then I moved to Abuja. I served in Lagos. I did my law school in Lagos. I moved back to Abuja and tried to practice law. And then they were paying, in the chambers, they were paying 7,000 naira to a law graduate. And I didn't understand why. And I didn't see why anybody was going to pay me 7,000 naira when I have brain. Really. So I decided that, I was going to move back to Lagos and see what I could do. When I came back to Lagos, I did some work with Efere, called the late lawyer. Okay. Yes, I did some work with him. He did this Waiting Lawyers They Do Self for the entertainment industry that year. So I worked on that, and I did 1 or 2 things. So I decided that I was going to start an entertainment, like I was going to do something. Yeah. So goodness, let me
take it back.
Yes, let me take you back a little to this point. 2007 was, and this is you making me talk about myself that I don't like doing. In 2007, I think, was like the most painful year of my life. I was suffering a heartbreak, and at that point I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. I didn't know what my purpose for my life. I just didn't know. I just felt lost. And I think that every person, needs a kind of breaking down for there to be a building up. For there to be anything raised above something, there has to be foundation. You have to break the ground, to put a foundation in place. So I think that was what that process was. I used to go to House on the Rock then, and there was a statement that Paula DeFarasin made, and that statement was what helped me own my pain. He said, you need to let your pain count for something. Don't waste your pain. And I was like, I'm wasting this pain, or this pain, I will deal with you. And then I decided that, okay, I spent the 2007 fasting. So for the first 7 days of every month of 2007, I was fasting. And it was an instruction that I got in my spirit. I can't say that I heard it in the room, Lydia, go and fast. It wasn't like that, but it was an instruction I received. And I started doing it on the 1st of January in 2007. And when I started, it wasn't something that sometimes I didn't care. I didn't pray sometimes, but I was like, okay, this is an instruction, so I'm just being obedient. I'm not really caring about you right now, God, so this is... And then as every month rolled by, I kind of got less, the pain kind of lessened. So I think it was in June or in July that I picked up the Purpose-Driven Life. And I had read it before, but this time it was different. I was doing it for myself, not because somebody wanted to, because you need a partner to do it. It wasn't because somebody wanted to be a partner, or I was doing it for myself, and I sat down with it, and then I now realized what my main purpose is to worship God, to have a relation, to worship, and then worship for me now became clear that it wasn't about you going to church or you singing. Worship is a lifestyle. You worship with the things that you do. You worship with who you are. And I was wondering, okay, so God, what am I about? What is this life about? And at some point, I now realized that my prayers were changing. I stopped praying about getting a job. I stopped praying about finding the right man. All those things now became very insignificant compared to who I was and who God was to me. Right? So I started praying to know God and to love God. I wanted to know Him in a way that is not about reading the Bible. I wanted to have a personal experience with Him. God, I don't know how I'm going to tell this story. So I started praying that, and then I fell in love with God. And then I realized that what I have been doing for the past how many years, 20-something years of my life, was useless. If you understood, it was like a feeling for a boyfriend. How you feel for somebody, how your heart beats. When that's how, I fell in love with God. I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously, this is a thing. Is this a thing? I was in love. So everything didn't matter anymore. And then I now understood what seek you first meant. The kingdom, and everything else will be added. You don't have to look for any, you don't have to struggle for anything else. As in, just seek that one thing, and then everything else will be added to you. So I now, in October was the first time I heard God speak to me.
October of what year?
October of 2007.
Okay.
Yes. I started Tarawa. It was in that process that I started Tarawa in August of 2007, when I kind of got a release, yes, do this, register the company. So in September of 2007, I registered the company, and I started doubting myself, what are you doing? Where's the money going to come from? It doesn't even look, I showed my uncle my registration certificate, and I saw the look on his face.
What is she doing?
This child. So I was like, goodness, I started having doubts, So in October of 2007 was the first time I heard God speak to me. Very, very clearly. Very, very clearly. What do you want?
So what was, when you say God speak to you, was it
yes,
it wasn't a voice.
I can't explain it. I promise you that I cannot explain it. I cannot tell you. It wasn't a voice in the room like Lydia. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't. But as soon as I heard it, I knew that it was God, because I burst into laughter.
Okay, most people kneel down when they hear God.
No,
Okay.
I burst into laughter. As in, I burst into laughter. I was like, And nobody had to tell me that, this, it was just like Eli, that he knew that it was God talking to Samuel, even when Samuel didn't know.
No.
But in this situation, like, I knew that it was God. And then I was like, did I tell you that I wanted anything? I'm just saying, I love you now and thank you for my life.
Were you praying?
Yes, I was praying. I wasn't praying. I was just saying, Father, I love you. Like, I was about to go to bed, So I was like, did I say anything? I didn't say I want anything. I'm just saying, and I heard clearly again, what do you want? I said, well, okay, if you insist, then let me start listing. If you are going to be insistent that I must want something, yes. So let me start, and then I started talking to him about my doubts and my fears and everything. And it was on that day, I think it was on the 10th of October, 7th of October. Yeah, it's written somewhere that I was assured that I was on the path.
And how were you assured? Was it just
like you are on the path? This is what you are meant to do. This is what you're meant to be doing. This is your purpose. This is your assignment. You are on the path.
Tarawa was your assignment.
Tarawa, Baggy Child Entertainment, Tarawa, yes, and the things that I will give to you through that, the assignments, the projects that I'll give to you through that. So at that point I was like, okay. Sometimes I do things like a mumu, like if he says move here, I move. If he says move there, I move.
So you were just unyielded at this point. You're just like, okay.
Yes, I was like, whatever. And then I told God that I wasn't going to date again. I didn't want to. That's in that conversation, that first conversation. I told him I wasn't going to date. So if it's in your plan for my life that I marry, then you sort it out, because I'm not dating anymore. I'm tired of this nonsense, So I got married in 2008 in November. As at, yes, you want to ask me something?
No, I was going to say all of this was October 2007.
Yes.
Okay.
In July of 2008, on the 1st, I saw my husband after 2 years. I had not seen him since 2006.
Okay, so you were friends in 2006?
Yes, we had been friends for a while, but we never dated, nothing. So on the 1st of July, I saw him, and then by November, we were married.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. Right? So
yes, I've done the math.
Okay. So that's that aside. When I was going to do the Tarawa festival, the first festival last year, I was going to do it. I wanted to do it in November. That was the plan. Like when God gave me your next step is to do a festival, and I was like, okay. So I wanted to do it in November, and then in January last year, move now. And I was like, what is this? Move now. And when God says move, it's like sickness, physically. Like if I'm not moving, I'm sick. So I have to move. Like I have to obey. So I was like, move. Okay, what's going on? Move now. My husband was like, you said November. Why are you moving? Yeah, why are you like? And I was like, I don't know. God said I should move, so I'm moving. As at the time I did that festival, I had 0 naira. 0. I did that festival on 0 naira. That was 3 days of events.
On 0 naira?
Yes, of 6 events.
Okay, so how?
Yes, the sound person is in this room. He would testify. Yeah, 3 days of 6 events on 0 naira, and I can't tell you now how that happened. Do you understand? As in, so when God says to me, move, like everything I do is hinged on what He tells me to do. And I find that when I obey, like at the end of the day, I never have, like I can't tell you how. I said a prayer, I think in 2006 or 2007, sometime during the year, I said a prayer that said, God, I want everything that happens to me or everything in my life for people to know that I could not have done it on my own. That was the most painful prayer, because when you don't know how you're going to do things, and like I'm literally sick, like, hey God, how am I going to do this? And then He now, in just before the festival, some weeks before the festival, when I was lying on the floor, I said, I don't know how this is going to happen. I have bitten off more than I can chew. Who sent me here? I got a phone call from Sarah Bulus, the initiator of SPAN, and she asked me to please come to her house. And I'd never met her before, I'd never spoken to her before. And I went to her house.
So she just got your number from
Yes,
and called you?
Yes, and called us. And then she got from the festival website and called. And when I sat down in her living room, she said to me, I want you to know that you are blessed and highly favored. I lost sleep over you. And I was like, how? She said, God did not give me rest. Call them, like God disturbed her. So I said, God, if you can disturb a stranger, somebody who had never met, raise a stranger for me somewhere, out of the blue like that, then I don't have any fear. I don't have any doubt. I do things like an idiot. Like I just get up and do. Because I don't care how, I just know that somehow,
if he sent you, he's going to make the way for you.
Yes. And so I'm having another festival in June, and here I am again, waiting for him to send somebody, to me, so I...
But then the thing about it is that sometimes, you have the assurance, but then there are challenges along the way. So for example, when you had the assurance from God, but when you started, did you expect that the very first one you would have 100 people? Were you disappointed?
No, I wasn't at all. I didn't, numbers have never been my thing. Okay. I've never used numbers to say this is how successful the event was. If one person can walk away telling me, oh my God, this was so awesome, I love this, or somebody sends me a text saying, Lydia, thank you, as in what you do makes my life worthwhile, I'm fine with that, because my calling is not for 1 million people. It's for one person who will see me and say, how does she do this? So for me, it's not about the numbers.
I'm listening to you, and I'm going to be honest. There's a little bit of envy seeping into me.
Really?
Yeah, not in a bad way.
Pink envy is how my friends and I really. It's not green. Pink envy.
I'm like, how do you assess that level of relationship with God? How do you get to that point? I know you said, oh, you fasted and all of that, but how do you? Because I'm sure that people that are going to be watching, they're thinking, I need to have fasted now. I've done 40 days, 40 nights. When is this voice going to come? Like,
yes. I honestly cannot tell you how or why or, but the yearning that I felt at that point and the way that I loved God at that time, I don't think that He could have ignored me. The way I yearned, it was like, how when Jacob held the angel and said, I will not let you go until you bless me. That was the way it was. It was like, it was either this or, like when you watch Don McKirkin or like sing, that this is not about entertainment. As in, this is like a matter of life and death for him. That's at that point that I was, as in, it wasn't. So it
was very, I think another thing that strikes me is you define success differently.
Yes.
And I think that's so interesting and in a way, I can see, for example, now Tarawa as something that, it hasn't only blessed you, but has blessed thousands and hundreds of people, not only in terms of enjoying the stage, but also using that as a platform. So how does that make you feel?
Well, I just, whenever that happens, it just assures me more that I'm being obedient. Yes, I'm where I'm supposed to be. It just validates me, somewhat. And it's not a feeling that I can describe. It's just...
You just know that you know.
Yes. It's not a feeling that I can describe. I just know that I'm blessed, and I would never trade this. This is me. So it's not who I am. It's not like what I'm doing or what is who is me. It's who I am. So if you remove it from my life, take it, I've ceased to exist.
Okay. So what have you learned from this process? Obviously, an obvious one is trusting God.
Yes.
But what else have you learned?
I think my most important lesson is that you don't need money. To whenever somebody said, I don't have capital. Most of the things that I don't do them with capital, I don't do them with money. This is how I define wealth. Wealth is not the existence of money. Wealth is the meeting of needs. If you're able to meet those needs somehow, you're wealthy. You don't have wants. You don't have things that are left unattended to. So I feel like I'm a very wealthy person in that regard, because somehow whatever I want to do, I end up doing. Whatever I need, I end up having, I end up getting. I can't tell you how. I just know that everything is I'm just a walking miracle most of the time, but yeah.
Okay, but in that, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about people who are, maybe they have good paying jobs, for example, and they want to, they are thinking, maybe they're hearing that voice or that prompting to start something that doesn't seem as glamorous as their current lifestyle. What would you say to those kind of people in terms of taking that jump and plunging into something that may not be, as they define it, as profitable as what they're currently doing?
Yes, you see, one thing that defines my life is that I don't see myself as somebody who is, I don't want to be misinterpreted. I don't see myself as somebody who is off here, of the world, of this world. This this can't be it. This is not, there has to be like a bigger plan, right? There has to be, like, this can't be. I don't see myself as somebody who, like, the things that happen here, they don't define me. Yes, and I don't make my decisions based on what people think, how people see things, how things happen. You know, so most times when I'm making people, like some people will tell me, Lydia, these people are going to take you for granted. These people are going to take advantage of you. And I'm like, that's not, like, I honestly don't care, honestly, about that. I don't care about competition. You know, people say competition is healthy. Like, I just look at some theories and I'm like, oh, okay, if you were in my head, like, you see things differently. You know, so I feel like if this is a calling, everything you need to push the standards of this world to the back, or even eliminate them totally, because you can never go anywhere with the standards of the world. Like, you keep on questioning yourself, how you dress, how you look, how you do, how you keep on, you raise your standard against yourself. You know, if you follow
kind of like unnecessary burdens.
Unnecessary. You know, so I just do things, like, I just do things based on how I think God sees me, or how God sees the world. Like, that's how I.
So what is your advice to people as a parting shot?
Yeah.
What is your advice to people that who are in similar situations to you before you started Tarawa?
Yeah, Nike, man. Just
do
it.
Just get it done.
Just do it, because you look back in 2 years and say, 2 years have passed. If I had started this thing 2 years ago, I would have been somewhere now. You know, so just do it. It takes one step to bring the other step, and then before you know, you've walked 1,000 miles. And then it also takes clap for dance to begin. You know, like, you have to start from somewhere. So don't be afraid to start, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Like, you're bound to make mistakes, but you learn from them. You know, so.
Thank you so much, Lydia. So from going to not wanting to talk about yourself, you really opened up.
Yes, and I wish this thing would not go online. I promise you, I wish.
Too late now. Well, thank you so much, Lydia.
Thank you for having me, Glory.
Guys, it's been Lydia being really candid and open about God's role in shaping her purpose and shaping her life. I think for me, one of the biggest things I've learned from Lydia is, you know, just drowning out the noise and focusing on what that prompting, that inner knowing. So I think if you're at the edge of the cliff right now and thinking, I want to do this, but things are holding me back, I would say just jump. See you next time on the Inspire Series.